Hello, everyone. There. Glad to see you guys again. Welcome to another edition of Credit Conversations Q&A, where we talk about all things credit, what's good, what's not good, best practices, and all that stuff. So I want to thank you guys for joining me again. And I'm looking to see if anyone else comes on, but that's okay. Because I will talk about what I know needs to be said for you guys to benefit from it, because I hope to share live with folks so I can answer questions live for what's on your guys' mind. So this is where we talk about that. So you guys tell me what's going on in the news, what's happening where you're at. What do you guys want to know? So, if you guys are awake, you're awake. Now I'm proposing right now to see if I can, with it being summer, and I know a lot of folks like to be out in the sunshine at 6 o'clock, especially even on a Wednesday. So I'm proposing to move the day of this webinar. I'm thinking potentially Sunday, maybe Sunday evening, and see if a few more folks want to come on. If that works for a lot more people rather than a Wednesday. I figured a Wednesday evening would be great, maybe in the winter, but I'll try one more time. Maybe I will move this to 8 o'clock. I tried 7, I moved it to 6. Maybe I'll move it to 8, but I figured prime time, a lot of people wouldn't want to be on for that. So I'm thinking maybe 8 or 9 o'clock. So, you guys who are seeing this on the replay, if you watch the replays because you can't attend live because the time is not favorable for you, please reach out to me and let me know, and I'll take a poll on that, and I will go on a day that is most convenient for most people. So until some people come on, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about those of you who are fighting with rent issues on your credit, things like evictions, being sued by property management companies because they claim that you had outstanding balances. I know a lot of that. These property management companies, many of them have little loopholes and things where if you move out, when you vacate, if you don't notify within a certain time frame, they want to charge you for that. If you don't move out, they want to charge you for that. If the property isn't to a ridiculous cleaning standard, they want to charge you for that. And so they are very, very vigorous about placing items on your credit report for outstanding balances, because they're not just happy with the security deposits anymore. They want money for breached leases, annual leases. They want money for specks of dust on the walls, scratches on the walls, moving out a day late and being $1 short. So I'm gonna show you talk about some rent dispute letters and how to use them effectively to get this off of your credit. Now, this is part of my DIY credit course. So if you want more information about that, it is available within there. But I'm going to give you the full deal here in going over it with the parts that's most valuable for you guys. So if you've been denied housing or face challenges opening accounts, more or less due to negative rental related information on your credit report, I have some dispute letters that will offer you a powerful method to clean up the inaccuracies. That's assuming they're inaccurate. And then, of course, if a lot of these you say they are inaccurate and they've trumped up these balances and charges, what you want to do is gather information and put it in a dispute letter that says this assumption of debt, this assumption of charges is based on a false assumption. It's inaccurate. That's not the way things went down, things of that nature. So yes, dispute letters are important, but always remember, I said 100 times, dispute letters need that documentation of what you say happened or what really happened. That documentation is what takes that letter and just boosts it to 90% effectiveness. And so those people, that deal with that, that's what they have to come on there. I see we got somebody else joining us here. If you could please just write in the chat your full names just so I know who's on. And if you have any questions you want to ask, if you don't want to ask them live, which I would rather you do, verbally, you can put them in the chat. And I just want to welcome you to the chat and to the discussion. Right now, I'm talking about using rental dispute letters effectively. If you have any questions related to this or anything else, you can stop me at any time and I'll go ahead and answer any questions if you have anything that's top of mind. Okay. And so I was talking about disputing accuracies related to rent, evictions, outstanding balances from property management companies and whatnot. Now, these letters reference the Fair Credit Reporting Act and Metro 2 compliance standards. These letters will challenge the legitimacy of your reporting agency's data and demand that they verify any proof of accuracy. So when they say you owe them out money based on a late departure from the property or scratches on the wall or anything that's above and beyond what your security deposit that they, assuming they took that as well, any charges they have related to your rental transaction with them, we're requiring them to verify it before we talk about paying anything, because anything they can't verify cannot be on credit. That's Fair Credit Reporting Act law. I'm going to also tell you step by step how to use these letters. I'm going to talk about them and then the strategies for maximizing your success with those. Well, first of all, the purpose. So these particular letters are designed to dispute inaccuracies, like I said, related to rental balances, eviction records, or any other rental account issues. Each one of these letters, and they all kind of serve different purposes, they request specific documentation. Each letter asks for something different based on the situation. And they're asking for these as required by the Fair Credit Reporting Act and Metro 2, like I said before. These guidelines say that the management company or private lender or private landlord, whoever, who's reporting this information must substantiate any and all negative rental information. It also says that if they can't provide that proper documentation to substantiate it, they are legally obligated to remove or correct the items that they're reporting. So, step number one, you collect all the necessary information, like I said before. So, if you still have a copy of the rental agreement, if you don't have that, we can always get that. We can make them provide that. But anything, if you were really evicted, if they claim you were evicted, which they often do, because they try to do that to make you look bad so they can justify any excess monies they want to levy against you. So if you were really evicted, that if you weren't never evicted and they don't have it, we'll make them ask for proof. If you were, if you received a letter from them or a bill or invoice claiming charges that were above and beyond the security deposit or anything like that, we got to make them provide proof. If they said there was rent that was missed, you want to provide all your rental receipts or proof from payment to show there were no missing payments, things of that nature. So whatever they claim is the circumstance for which you owe them money, you want to have documentation that countermands that and disputes that, so that can go with a dispute letter. All right. Now, before you send any letters out to them, any of these dispute letters, make sure you have a copy of your credit report outlining that information that they're naming, relevant rental documents, like I just talked about, and any and everything. And of course, your proof of identity. You want to make sure you always have that. And so next thing you want to do is you want to create that letter. So if you're using a template, if you purchase a template, if you've gotten a template, request one from me, you want to take that template and you want to customize it for your situation. And now, depending on how good the template is, you might have to do more or less customization, but be sure that you customize it. You do not want to use a generic letter for something like this. And you want to list the accurate account details that should be there. You want to include the name of the property, your account number, if you had a rental number, account number, and whatever that reported balance or eviction date, if it applies to that. And when you have accurate listings of things, that strengthens your dispute. You want to emphasize the FCRA and Metro 2 standards because those play a lot in what can be allowed to be put on your credit report and show what's on your credit report. You want to clearly state your demand for verification and highlight your legal rights, because even though they know there's a Fair Credit Reporting Act and the various laws that actions against them, you always want to state them because you want to let them know that you know. That makes you a more informed complainant, and they're less likely to blow you off when you start talking, speaking intelligently about these things in a way that makes you informed. Then step 3, you want to send your letters via certified mail. I always recommend using certified mail with the return receipt whenever you're sending any letters to creditors, especially to creditors. This way you can track the letter, you can verify when they received it, because they have to sign for it, and it's going to send your receipt notification back, so they can't claim they never got it. If they refuse it or anything like that, you'll know it. So then now that works in your favor because they're refusing your efforts to resolve the issue, which goes a long way if you ever get to the point where you want to file a complaint with the CFPB, the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. So that works in your favor if they turn it back. But more importantly, if and when they receive it, you got a timeline now for when you can start the wait to allow them time to process your request, which is normally 30 days. And if you got more, you want to send a separate letter for each bureau if you're sending it to the bureau and the creditors. And you want to address the letters individually, like the letter to Equifax should say to Equifax with their information, to Experian, TransUnion, and so on, and make sure that they're all getting a specific customized letter. Step 4 is you want to monitor and track the responses. So they have a hard 30-day deadline to respond to your request. You'll know when the 30 days start because you'll know when they received it because we did it certified mail. And so they have 30 days to respond to your dispute. And so what you want to do is you want to keep track of the bureau response time. And if they, especially if they ask for additional information, which they often do. So then if you receive something from them and they ask for additional information, you want to address it timely. You want to, if it's something you have, you want to provide it. If it's something you don't have, you want to let them know as fast as possible that I don't have that because that doesn't exist, or I never had that, or something to that effect. So always want to make sure you follow up promptly. Okay, now the third strategy, the third item is we want to talk about strategies and tips for maximum success. Now, when you're creating your letters, you want to use direct, formal language in them. You want to keep the language professional, direct, and clear. You want to avoid emotional language or subjective statements, which weaken your case because they say, oh, you're just kind of blathering on. You want to emphasize your rights under Fair Credit Reporting Act and Metro 2. And by doing so, like I said before, you want to show them that you know what you're talking about. You know you have rights under this, that, and the other, the various Fair Credit Reporting Act laws, You know, a lot of folks, you know, they cite the 1681I. There's A through I. Actually, it's A through J. But there's numerous various laws all for different and for individual rights that we have as consumers. And so you also want to request specific documentation for verification. So you don't want to just say verify this account. You want to say, if you say I did owe them some money, but the balance that they claim on credit is way higher than what I believe I owed, you want to request a full itemization of the history of the charges that supposedly contribute to that balance being reported. So you want to be specific. You want to say, you say I owe X amount of dollars. Please provide me an itemized history showing how did you come up with this number? How do I owe this? And then if it's anything related to evictions that they claim, because they often will, you know, you move out and then they say you owe money, you don't pay it. And so the first thing they do is they go out and they file eviction charges so that when they take you to court, the housing court or small claims court for the balance, if they show paperwork to the judge of an eviction, it looks like you're a deadbeat. So the judge is more inclined to believe that if you were evicted, you probably did move out and owe money. So if there are evictions there on your credit that you never had an eviction, you were never charged, sued, and evicted, you want to get that off your credit. Don't figure, oh, it's all past tense, because it's making, anytime they want to decide you owe them some money, they can just say they owe us some money and say it's based on this and see here's an eviction. And so that's sort of character assassination. And I don't think anybody should stand for that. And of course, you want to include all relevant attachments, everything from your ID, proof of address, and then any rental documentation, anything related to what you're disputing and what's on credit. So all your documentation will be there, because take a little extra time. So if you're waiting for one document and it may take a few extra days, I recommend that you wait and have everything, because you might think, well, it's just one missing document, but they will totally shut you down and make you wait and then dismiss it if there's one missing document. They will play that game. So you want to make sure that you've got as much as possible and that you can reasonably get it. Now, if it's something that you say, I just can't get it, then you go ahead and send it and then hope they don't play that game where they just ask for that missing document. Or you can ask them if it's related to something that they generated, you can say, hey, I need you to provide it. So you can always do that. But don't rush it thinking you're going to rush the process when it's ultimately going to take more time when it's incomplete. And then if you have anything like inquiries, like if somebody's, request, if they're doing non-account holding inquiries, like related to they're checking your credit to see if they can sue you or something like that. If there's any hard inquiries on your credit report and related to any of these, like the property management company or anything like that, you want to get those off too, because hard inquiries can contribute to a small drop in your score, but it's particularly important when there are multiple inquiries, so they can start to add up 5, 6, 7 points each. Somebody run that 10 times, that's 50, 60 points. So it's important that if you got unnecessary inquiries, you attack those as well. Now I'm gonna offer you some pro tips for a strong follow-up and accountability. Obviously, you want to be persistent and you need to be organized. So you want to have those two, because when you're disputing negative items on your credit report, it will take time. It is a timely process. It's sometimes some back and forth, but it is a timely process strictly because there are built-in waiting periods. Now, we got to give them 30 days. It doesn't necessarily mean they're always going to take 30 days, but believe me, when they don't want to, they will drag it out, but they will answer quickly if they think they got a chance of getting whatever money you're trying to get. Now, usually when you're asking for those validation verifications first, those usually take the longest. And we kind of want them to, because if they rush back with an answer we don't like, we kind of feel like, you know, we got a fast no that could have been a slow yes. So we want to allow them that. But just remember, there is a time frame involved. I know there are many people on the internet who promise credit results in 24 hours, 72 hours, and things like that. That does happen for certain kinds of things, but it's not for every and anything on your credit. Some credit items take longer than others to dispute, to remove, to take care of, whatever adjective you want to use, or adverb, I should say. And at the end of the day, you go back and forth. They're not giving you what you want. They're stonewalling everything else. You always have the right to file a complaint. You can file a complaint with the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. The beauty of that is you can do it online on their website. So you want to go to CFPB, you can just Google it and find it. And you go there. They have a link that specifically says file a complaint. They have the ability to, you can upload your documents. If you have an electronic form, you can upload those and attach them to your complaint, so they can very easily accommodate your electronic request. But again, it's the same process. You want to have all the documentation, including the back and forth. So if you've gone back and forth with them and not gotten what you want, include that. Tell them, hey, I've been trying. Here's what I gave them. Here's what they gave me. And then be clear about what exactly your complaint. You tell them exactly what you want, what's wrong, and how you would like to see it fixed. You want to be very specific. And then even after you file the complaint, you still want to follow up with the original creditor, or even go right to the property manager. Oftentimes, they're the ones that's reporting it anyway. And so if they are the ones reporting the item, the property manager or original creditor, if it's not the same person, you can always send a direct dispute to them in the form of a letter. You can, usually the property managers are a little bit more willing to negotiate when all things being equal, rather than the credit bureau. So sometimes you can go to them first. You can do both. You'll probably get a quicker response from them, but you always it's good to have that complaint in the bag already to the credit bureau. So they'll also come at the creditor, the property management company, from the other side while you're talking about it. And then they'll be more inclined with a little bit of pressure to resolve the issue. And if all else fails, you may want to consider hiring a credit attorney for a more complex cases, or when it's a substantial amount of money that they're trying. Because I've seen people get sued for a whole, for 9 months out of a 12-month contract, annual lease, because apparently the company wanted the money, even though they could have easily re-rented the place, but they claimed they couldn't. And they didn't. And of course, with that, when it came out, we ended up settling, giving them 3 months, not another 9, because there was some damage issues that was at dispute. And so they end up, I'm sorry, it wasn't 3 months, it was 2 months. They gave them 2 months, an amount equal to 2 months of rent to make it go away. So let me give you a sample timeline for disputing a rental account. So on day 1, you send a dispute letter to each bureau, ensuring that all your documents that I talked about that you got. So you got your letter, you create a letter for each bureau that's reporting, you added your ID, all of those items, along with any supporting documentation that says your version is the right version and theirs is the wrong version, right? And so then you wait a day. Then on days 3 through 5, you're going to be checking the tracking status, because we sent our letters certified mail, so we can get tracking. The U.S. Postal Service, you can track it, and they can say it's here, and here. So from days 3 through 5, you'll be tracking to confirm that the letters were sent and even received. So then you'll wait. You'll wait until day 30. So from the 30th, on day 30, after you mailed that letter originally, those letters, you want to check for responses from each bureau. But actually, you probably want to add, that's when you'll start looking. But remember, the 30 days start from 30 days of receipt. But so that's technically when you want to start the 30-day count. But you can kind of start the count from when you started, just to keep yourself engaged in the process. And so you want to check for the responses from the bureaus. You should be getting those first if you sent them to both. Now, if the bureau responds with a request for more information, you want to respond as promptly as you can. If they need more items and it take you a little bit of time to get them, work to get them as fast as possible and send them back to them by whatever means that they say return it. They may have a special address for it. They may even provide a special link. The credit bureaus oftentimes will let you upload things if you have an account in their respective portals where you may be able to upload things electronically. But I always recommend you try to stay with the paper process, because pretty much all the Fair Credit Reporting Act laws that protect us only primarily apply to written requests, not electronic or otherwise. So I keep that in mind. So on day 31, if you don't receive any response at all, you want to follow up with each of the bureaus that did not respond. And then you want to remind them that they are obligated to respond within the required time frame of 30 days. And by letting them know, reminding them and letting them know that you know, then that's goes a long way. They won't just think, just let you give you the jerk around and just ignore you. So then you want to give them a little bit more time. Now, you absolutely do not want to wait longer than 60 days. I like to say by 45, you start when sending another request. But if you're still sending things, reminding them, and you get all the way to day 60 from when you originally started, and they still have failed to verify the items that you're disputing, they haven't verified anything, they haven't updated anything, they haven't provided any documentation, or even a response letter, you want to escalate that 60 days, escalate it with the CFPB, or maybe consider hiring a credit attorney. So my last thoughts on that is you want to, consider this. By disputing negative items, the unpaid balances, the false evictions, you want to do this in a systematic way that I laid out. By following these steps, you want to leverage the Fair Credit Reporting Act and Metro 2, and you want to use those to boost your position by saying, I don't agree with this, and this law says that I have a right to, to compel you to verify this or change it or remove it or whatever the case may be. And so using FCRA and Metro 2, you'll position yourself really well to have, the items removed. And that's if they can't verify them. If you got documentation, if it's all bogus, it's only a matter of time before we got to call them out. But it can't be they can ignore you. If you know how to do this and remind it and escalate it, they can't ignore your request as much as they want to, because that's their main tactic, is to stall people out and just ignore them, thinking, like most people, they won't show patience and perseverance, and they'll just give up and say, I tried, but they never said anything, this type of thing. So you always want to provide comprehensive documentation and precise information. You want to include that in the letters. You want to track every step of the process for accountability. And of course, you always want to be prepared to escalate to the government, the regulatory agencies if needed, or possibly even an attorney. But everything else up until this point is relatively low cost or free. So with that persistence, the right documentation, and a strategic approach, you can improve your credit profile successfully, and you can have a really good chance of having these items removed, and so with that, I was going to provide you, but I can't get it to click over to share. I was going to show you what these the rental dispute letters look like. I'm gonna have to add a link in the description, so folks that want to see it, they can pull that up. But it's pretty straightforward. It's just the main things are you're discussing that and addressing specifically what you got. Now, I will tell you this. I have a DIY platform. It's a software platform. It's designed for you to be able to fix your credit yourself. That platform is AI driven. So what you do is upload your credit report. It will look at your credit report. It will flag all the negative items, including rental information issues. And for each one, it will ask you, what do you think about it? And you pick from a list of drop downs. And depending on whether you want to verify it first and then dispute it, it will pick the letter for you. It will create a custom letter for you using AI, similar to ChatGPT. But it's designed specifically for credit topics because it knows all the credit stuff. And it will create the letters custom for you to whoever you want to send them to. And then the only thing you need to do is print them out. And then you can stuff the envelopes yourself, put postage on them. I recommend certified mail, and take it to the post office and get that done and mail them. Or you can use an available, updated service where they'll print it for you, and they will send it out and for a nominal additional charge. The credit repair software platform is currently free. All you have to do is register to get it, and if you want access to it, I can provide you access for it. I can tell you this, you're running out of time because July 1st, access to the the DIY credit repair site will be free, but you would have to have another type of relationship with my community in order to get access to it. So you either have to join the community, or you would have to purchase one of my digital digital products that will give you access to that as well. Oh, we got a question here. Can you email it to me? Are you referring to the the first question, the email item? Are you referring to the dispute, the templates for this particular letter? And then the email link, is that the link for the platform? Okay, that's yes to both. Gotcha. Okay. All right. I will send that to you, but I don't see your name. Wait a minute. I think I know who you are. Did you send me a DM request earlier today? And I sent you, and
It's Sheena Hiley. I'm sorry. I'm multitasking. So no.
Oh, Sheena. Hey. Okay. How you doing?
Getting yourself and getting
Well,
ready to go
fantastic.
to
Well, if it's Queen Sheena, I got you. SD, I got
thank you.
you.
Thank you, thank
I
you.
believe you are on the email list. You should have gotten
Okay.
notifications because I send out email. I always send out emails. Oh, you know what? I think you were in my system. Okay, I'll make sure I can do that right now. I can definitely do that. Yeah, because I know you're on my email list. Yep, there
Okay.
you are. And I'm doing that right now. We do this in real time. So the folks out there who see the replay, they'll see,
You don't play.
That's
Yeah.
right. Take care. Action loves speed. Speed loves success. Success is
Let's go.
results. You know. Okay. Let me see. DIY credit builder access. It should flip the switch. So while I'm doing this, did you have any other questions? Credit questions just in general. It doesn't have to be about this. This is just a topic I discussed since there was nobody on. But if you have any and all credit questions, because believe me, this is recorded. And so the replay, as people will see, I don't know if you watched any of the replays, but these are the questions that most people ask. And so you help others too by asking your questions.
I guess my question would be in general, when can you expect, let's say you go through with the dispute, and they're pretty fast with responding, let's say 30 days, you get a response. How soon after would you, I guess, especially with the eviction situation, do you see that come off your report?
Okay, so you're saying you send out the letter. They came back. Okay, so either way, they either came back. Say you did a verification, and they came back and says we can't verify it, so we're going to have it removed, or they never respond within the time frame, and then you tell the credit bureau, hey, they didn't respond, they never sent us anything, and then the credit bureau removes it. So obviously, it's basically a reporting cycle. So to determine that, you'd have to look on the current credit report where that item is showing, and you want to look at the report date. That's the date that person, that entity, or that company, that's the date every month by which they report new information. So if you would want to see the next credit report, because credit reports typically cycle every 30 days. So the minute you take a look at your report and you're looking at it on a date after that report date, so the next available cycle after that letter that said either we're removing it or the credit bureau says we got to remove it because they never responded, that's when you should see it. It should go off on the next report cycle. So if they report on the 12th of the month, and you got a resolution on the 13th of the month, or the 15th of the month, or say the 25th of the month, then that following 12th of the next month, you should see that item removed.
Got it.
And if it's not, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you continue. Sorry.
I was gonna say, and if it's not, that's when you go back to the credit bureau and say, hey, it's been more than 30 days after it's after the reporting date for that. If they haven't sent you anything updated, just so you know. And of course, you would present whatever they gave you that says, yeah, you're right, we're removing it. And so you would give that to the credit bureau if it's not removed past the time it should have been removed, the report date for that particular creditor or property management company, whatever, then that's when you give that to the credit bureaus that is reporting on and says, hey, they already said it's not supposed to be on it anymore. And it's still there. So they didn't even update their information they sent to you. And when you do that, the credit bureaus will immediately update your credit. And so that's how that would go. So it becomes a timing thing when they don't do that correctly.
Okay. And let's say it's the inverse. Let's say that it is left on there for whatever reason, the judgment is against you. How long do evictions stay on? Do they ever really fall off?
That's going to depend. If the eviction is reporting in the public information section, like, just like a, it's not an actual trade line. The eviction with no, in other words, there's no like money involved. It's just public information. Same thing in the same section where you would find a bankruptcy or a judgment or something like that. If it's just that follows the 7 years rule, and it's specifically 7 years from when, let me see, eviction. It would be 7 years from when the entry of the judgment. So whatever that day they entered the judgment, it would, like whatever the official date is, it should go off 7 years from then. And that's assuming, well, that's part of the story, because there's two pieces that determine when an item falls off your credit. Everybody always talks about the credit part, the debt part, and the credit part with the 7 years, depending on the credit type. But there's also state limits. There are limitations on each state, depending on what state the judgment is in. There are statutes of limitations, and there's a long list that I couldn't possibly go through because it varies. But the statute of limitations is basically, it could cut it shorter than that. So in some states, the statute of limitation on evictions is only 4 years. So if you happen to be in a state that's 4 years, it won't even stay on that long. It'll only be on there 4 years. And then after that, the only way they can extend it is if they get you to reach out and send something about it, and then they put it on the 7-year clock. So that's something that always has to be considered. So when you're looking at, and that's where a lot of people, they mistakenly don't address old accounts, particularly collections and charge-offs and things like that, because they're waiting for the 7-year rule. But see, nobody you always hear 7 years, but people don't understand it. Number one, it's not exactly 7 years, because some of the rules say, depending on the credit type. Let's put aside the state limit for a second, but just talking about the debt part. Some people forget that the 7-year clock has another attachment to it, depending on the creditor type. So it's different for collections than it is for charge-offs, than it is for just delinquencies, than it is in different credit types, because some of them it's 7 years, but then you also have to add in the fact that the 7-year clock for some debt starts from the date of your first delinquency. Others start when it's from the date of last date of default. That means it's 7 years after you win it 30, 60, 90 days, right? Then you breach contract. From day 91 to day 120 is collections. And then from day 121 to day 150 is charge off. And then 30 days after charge off, now you're at the 180-day mark. And then the 7-year clock starts. So a lot of people, they throw around the 7-year part, but there are some prefixes to that 7 years that you add on that will dictate that.
Sorry, I lost my internet connection, but Florida is typically it's 7 years, right?
I'd have to look. I don't know them by heart. I got a chart, and the chart is not in front of me, but there's a chart that tells you that, and it varies for different states. So some states, no matter what kind of credit it is, they have a hard line for it being reported. And then some of them, it's the state you're in. Some of them, it applies to the state that the creditor is in, if you're dealing with out of state. But typically with real estate rental stuff, unless you're dealing with a big entity that's in another state, typically the law applies to the state that you live in. So you're in your state, or where that property took place. So if you're no longer there and you're in a different state now, obviously it applies to the state where you were living at the time when the debt was incurred. So, but yeah, so assuming that if the state guideline does not cut it shorter, then the 7-year, the debt guidelines fall into place. And so that's why I try, as part of when I'm working on people's credit, I look at that. If it's an older debt, if it's more than 4 or 5 years old, first thing I do is I look at the state that they're in to see if they're now again to see if the debt can no longer be reported on credit. Now remember, I want to be sure I make one distinction, not just to you, Sheena, but to everybody watching this. The statute of limitations and everything we talked about here is only about addressing what's on credit, what's being reported. None of these actually address any debt. Now, if you have documentation that shows that the debt doesn't exist, that's fine and great. But remember, in a lot of cases, especially with statute of limitations, that's only a statute of limitation for what they can report on credit. It doesn't mean the debt is gone. It doesn't mean that the debt expired. It just means their opportunity to report it on your credit report is expired. So I like to let people know that. So it's great because if our focus here is to clean up your credit and increase your credit score, then we're worried about that. But just know in the back of your mind that it went off your credit. That don't mean the debt don't go away, because they could still send you letters. They just can't report it on credit. Now, if it's beyond a certain point, you can order cease and desist letters and tell them stop sending me stuff. And then the only thing they could do then is sue you. And typically with larger outstanding balances, they will. But I know with property management companies, that's usually they're unlike a lot of other creditors. They feel like they know how to manipulate the housing court to get the housing court to act in your favor. And so that's why it's important that you keep your documentation, that you respond when you get stuff from the court, and make sure you respond to all those things so that they can't use any slip-ups against you to get a judgment that they don't deserve. But just remember, even when you're successful with these strategies, you definitely want to have a paper trail. And so, but that's that. And let me. Did you get the link? I just want to make sure you got the link real quick. Sheena.
Was it email?
Yeah, I sent you. I don't know if you can check it right now, but I did send the email link for the for access to the platform. And see, that's the beauty of, like I said, with the platform, it'll do all of this for you. I see your internet's going in and out.
Was it email?
Yeah, I just emailed it a few minutes ago. It should come from highly at creditrenovatorslllc.net.
Okay.
And that's for the link.
I have to.
You have it? Okay, great. Yep. And yeah, you just click the link, it takes you to that, because that's a separate website from my company website. And then you just follow the steps. It takes you right through it to sign up and put in your information and get your credit put in there. And get it going. And like I said, it's very easy to use. It's it shouldn't require any real, because I've had people ask me, "Oh, do you have a training for this?" I was like, "Well, you just follow the steps. It takes you right through it. I don't think you really need any training." The only problem that I know some people run into is, depending on their phone, when they snap the picture to upload their driver's license, they got to make sure their settings on their phone is so that when they snap that picture, it doesn't create a file bigger than 2 megabytes. Because for some reason, I'm sorry, not 2 megabytes, 2 gigabytes. No, 2 megabytes, I think it was. It'll tell you, it'll say it's too big, so you just maybe have to shrink it down. But as long as you snap a picture with your phone, you're creating a JPEG or PNG file, it usually uploads right away. But I've had a few people tell me that that's what happened. I was going through my library documents. I was trying to find the rental for you. That's what I was running into early. I was like, why can't I find it? Because I wanted to have it up to show you guys what it looks like, what the template looks like. Did you have any other questions? I'm sorry. Look, you're on the hook. You're the only person that got on today. Some of my regulars from previous weeks that are not even on today. But it's a nice day outside. It's not as hot as it's been. So, well, let me ask you a question, Sheena. I'm gonna put you on the hook real quick. Okay. I started this webinar. Originally, I scheduled it for 7 p.m. on a Wednesday. Because I know in the webinar world, we know that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is the best days. The other ones, not so much. Now, I'm sure 6 o'clock might have been better in the wintertime, but it being summertime. So let me ask you, what would you consider to be the optimum day and time for a webinar like this?
I'd say maybe Wednesday is good midweek, or maybe 7, because it kind of gives your 9 to 5 time to get home, get situated.
That's what I started with, 7 o'clock. But guess what? More people came on when I switched it to 6. They haven't been as consistent, but okay, I'm gonna switch it back to 7. I was even thinking
I
about
think
going
to
to 8
your
o'clock.
point is the summertime.
I was thinking,
To your point is the
yep,
summertime. And maybe people are a bit more
uh-huh,
active, out and about, enjoying,
exactly.
life. So,
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, so what about 8 o'clock?
I thought about 8 o'clock as well. I think 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock might be a bit too late, especially for those who have like maybe family.
Mm-hmm.
Because by then you ready to, that's dinner time, ideally.
Well, I thought dinner time was 6 or 7, not 8. People still eating. This ain't Spain. People eating
No,
at 8 o'clock and going to
yeah.
bed at what?
I mean, maybe like 9:30, like 9:30. So if you push it to 8, I think it's a little late. Unless you have, I mean, you can, very well maybe have, I know it's a lot, but have 2 sessions. So maybe you have one. I was thinking, well, Monday is the beginning of the week, but Monday and a Wednesday, or a Tuesday and a Thursday kind of thing.
Yeah, see, because like I said, I know from experience in the webinar world, there are some that do Monday through challenges. They do, they tend to do Monday through Friday, but those are a little different. But for something like this, which is essentially at this point a free webinar, I know statistically for these types of webinars, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are the best days, and between 5 and 8 are considered the best times based on attendance that they've seen just as they compile data.
Maybe like on a Tuesday you do one at if you wanted to try 7, and then on a Thursday you try one at 8. Because on a Thursday you're already pretty much ready for the weekend. So maybe you will stay up a little later. That makes sense.
I got what you're saying. Yeah. Let me see. If this the statute of limitations, I was trying to see if I had a digital version of it in front of me. But no, yeah, I was trying to send you, because that's why I didn't have it up. I was trying to send you the one of template dispute letter. But the thing is, if you're going to sign up for and you're going to jump on the DIY credit, you don't need the template. They're all in there, and it'll create it for you. But I will send it to you if you really want it. But again, the thing about templates.
No, it's not fine. If it's there in the platform, it's okay. I
It'll
can find
create
it.
one for you. That's the beauty of it. Because the thing about templates, all right, and I didn't really want to go into this. I was going to go into it another one just real quick. A lot of people, they may or may not seen reference to something called E-Oscar. And what E-Oscar is, it's basically an electronic document reader. It's the credit bureaus use this because you can imagine they get tens, hundreds of thousands of disputes every day in writing. And so there's not a staff of people reading all these. They open them and then they put them through a machine. The machine is an optical reader where it's, even if it's whether it's typed or handwritten, unless it's really, really badly handwritten, the machine can read just about anything. And so it reads it quickly, as you can imagine, in fractions of a second. And then they send it off, depending on the content that's in the letter, to where it's going to go. Some things it will send to a live person. But what happens is, as you can imagine, like any other AI, when you see the same letter over and over and over and over and over again, it starts to recognize some of these letters and say, oh, we already know what the answer is to this one. Even though your situation is not unique, but typically not necessarily the same as every other situation. It's unique in a certain way. But so sometimes what happens is, after a while, it'll start shooting letters using a certain template, even though the name may be different and the account may be different, but it looks like this other 500,000 letters made in this template already. So it starts shooting your stuff in the same place. And if it gets into a bad groove where your stuff is getting kicked out because they're like, when we get this kind of letter, our standard response is that we did an investigation, when they really didn't. All they did was just send out a quick letter to the creditor. And then the creditor said, they sent out a letter basically saying, hey, is what you said on credit true? They say, essentially. And then they say, that's what we thought. And then that's the response you get. And a lot of people get that response when they send out a dispute, especially when it's been done electronically. And it says, you've seen it probably, consumer disputes, file meets Fair Credit Reporting Act guidelines. And all that really means is they didn't really check. They didn't really ask the creditor for any verification or true investigation or independent investigation of the account that you're disputing, because they sent you down that track because you used the standard dispute letter that they sell by the gross, maybe on Etsy or any of those other places where people sell letters. And so the idea is, you want, all things being equal, you want your letters to go to a person. That's preferable. And I know there's all sorts of things out there. People say, try to write in bad language, bad hand script, change ink pens in the middle of the letter, write part of it in red, part of it in blue. I don't know if any of that work. I do know if it's difficult to read, it will tend to go to a person. And there's some other hacks as well. But like I said, the idea here is like all the other letters. No matter what letter you're using, and no matter what dispute you're doing, your supporting documentation is 95% of the battle. Yep. Any other questions?
Not at the moment.
Okay, I do appreciate you coming on. So, all right, I was going to switch to Sunday because I was thinking about doing Sunday at 7. I tell you what, I'm going to try a Sunday at 7, and then next week at the same. I'm still going to schedule for next week and see how Sunday at 7 goes. So unless Sunday at 7 goes gangbusters, and then everybody that comes on says, no, we really would come on this Sunday at 7. I'm I'm going to do if I'll still do next Wednesday and I'll push it back to 7 like I had it. I did 4 weeks at 7 and I only had about a half dozen people come on a couple of nights and then 2 or 3 people a couple of nights. So, but everybody goes and watches the replay, but see, there's going to become a time the replay is only going to be available to the community. Yep. If people want to, if they want to see the webinar, they're going to have to get on, and to get on, they're going to have to register, and be part of the community.
I was going to say, why don't you send out a poll and see, what the responses are that you get,
that. Guess what? Nobody responded to the poll. The same people who already come on was the only ones who responded. And I sent it out full tilt on Facebook and I sent out an email to everybody that's already on the list to find out why they aren't coming on. I mean, and again, because at first it wasn't my intention to broadcast the replays, because let's be frank, if people can watch the replay, there's no reason for them to come live other than if they actually have questions. But I want the live interaction because if people come on, I can pick a subject and talk about it and drone on and on and on about it. But I know for a fact that when at least one person has a question, it may even be about something I talked about before, but when you're talking about it in your context rather than me throwing out a general scenario, that's more meaningful to a lot of people. And I've found more than once that one question, like the questions you asked today, believe me, there's people out there who were on, if they were on here, they would have been like, I always wanted to know that too, or been scared to ask. And I guarantee you that when people see the replay, there are going to be people out there who are going to benefit from the answers that I gave to the question that you made that I wouldn't have talked about had you not brought it up today. So that's the power of the webinar, the live, and the group, because you get to learn from each other, not just me. And that's something I'm trying to get people to understand. That way, because otherwise I could just record a webinar and put it out anytime I want to. I'm trying to do something, live, which is way more valuable, Yep. So, okay. So, yep, go ahead and do that. And if you have any problems with that, Sheena, feel free to reach out to me. You know how to get a hold of me. But it's pretty straightforward. But I'm glad you're jumping on there now, so you don't have to. And again, more than likely what I'm going to do, and this is for the folks who see this replay, what's probably going to happen is come July 1st, you're probably going to have to buy, because I'm revamping my DIY credit repair course. I'm revamping it to align it more with this platform. Now, the course is not intended to be a how-to on use the platform. It's still a DIY course that you can fix your own credit using the information and the steps in this course all by yourself using homemade letters or templates. But if you combine the DIY course with the tools of the platform, I mean, my goal is for everybody to become their own personal credit repair expert, and maybe even help other people. Like they might want to help their friends or their people or something like that, and say, hey, I don't know if they want to go into it as a business, but if they can fix their own credit and they can help their friends fix their own credit, hey, that's fine with me. Because most of the people who want to fix their credit with me, they're looking to do other things anyway. Like my entrepreneurs out there, they're fixing their credit so that they can start their business and get business credit and business funding, because that's the key. They want to get the monies, they want to get that money so they can take on care of other opportunities. Because I show people, once you got good credit, then I show you what to do with it to make your life better. Because credit is more than just having the ability to go out and charge up more crap. I show people how they want to start a business, they want to buy investment property, they want to take out money to invest in something good and legitimate, that whole thing. Of course, there's the people who want to start a business. There's people who already have a business and they want to scale it up, but they can't get funding because their personal credit is bad. And a lot of times they've messed up their personal credit building the business because they only had their personal credit to use. And when you use your credit in a way to build your business, you usually do things like exceed the credit utilization and other things. Sometimes you max out things, and then when you got uneven income months and things like that. So I showed them how to separate that and get over to the business side so that their business will not have to rely on their personal credit to get business funding and get business loans and for the business, and separate their personal from the business finances. And things like that. And so, it's fine with me if people take advantage of free credit repair and fix their own credit. And then I just help them out in other ways, again, with the business, with real estate investing, with all of those things that are within my wheelhouse. But it all starts with credit. It's really, really, really difficult, not impossible, but it's really, really, really difficult to do any of those things without credit, unless somebody drop a boatload of money in your lap. And it won't be a lender doing that. Not even a lot of grants. A lot of people, they think about grants. They say, oh, if I get a grant, I can start my business. Grants don't even like giving money to people with bad credit because they don't have anything to go on in terms of your judgment. So they're afraid that if you got bad credit, you're not good with managing money. That's in a presumption, may not be a fair one, but it's one used. And so they may be less inclined to give you a grant if your credit is bad. So keep that in mind. So with that being said, I thank you guys for joining in. And the messaging will go out. I'm going to have a special session Sunday night to see if the viewership likes that a little bit better. So those of you who will see this replay in the next day or two, make note that I'll be sending out an email as well as the normal communications of a special session on Sunday night at 7:00 to see if that works better with the viewership. So until then, see you guys next time and take care.